Yeah, thanks for joining us. We This is our second monthly webinar. We're going to continue to put out content like this, really trying to help churches think through the way they use their digital space. Um, when I started a church in New York City back in 2015, a lot of what I thought, you know, website, social media, brand, all of those things were kind of a necessary evil. It's like, man, I'm trying to start a church. I'm trying to reach new people. I didn't know anybody. I was moving from New Orleans to New York, and so I'm learning as I go. And now I have to also be a web designer, and I don't post to my own social media account, but now I've got to post for a church, and there's a lot of things, and sometimes it can feel like we're just doing stuff to do stuff. But I know if you're on this webinar, that your heart here is not to have a pretty website. Your heart is to reach people with the good news of Jesus Christ. And if there are avenues that we can do that, if we can bend out the love and grace of God to others in the digital space in the same way that we're wanting to do that in person as we shepherd the people that God's given us, then man, sign me up for any and every tool that we can use. Now, what we want to do with this webinar over the next, 45 minutes or so is to unpack specifically the focus of your church's website. And so we're going to talk through really a lot of things. We'll hit on some additional like tools and features that might be helpful for your website at the end. And then really just try to have a little extra time that we might normally do for some Q&A at the end, because I think everybody's coming from their church website from a different place. Some of you might have a church website already and you're wishing that you didn't. Some of you don't have one and trying to figure out how you could start having one. Or you're just looking, hey, is it possible to put on a Band-Aid? Is there, can I pay $5 a year and somehow have a perfect church website? Like everybody's all over the map, and church websites often can be the last kind of thing that we think about. But the case that I want to make this afternoon is that your church website is your digital front door, much like the front door of your church building, if you have a church building, or the front door of your home in your neighborhood as you invite people in. And so, just like your home, just like your church building, it is a place where you can meet people, enter into relationships with people, and to begin to demonstrate and explain the good news of Jesus Christ. And so that doesn't happen by accident. We don't find ourselves even sharing the gospel by accident. If you are a church planner, your church doesn't just get started by accident, as nice as that would be, that you just wake up one day and it's grown and all the systems are there and your 501(c)(3) suddenly has been established and you're incorporated with the state. Now you got to do all of those things. And as leaders within the church, it is our responsibility to think very deeply so that way we could lead our people very clearly and very simply. And one of the ways that we can do that is with our church website. So, just a couple of things. And if you stuck with me this long, my name's Rob, and I serve as the Director of Business Development at Grace-Led Communications. We're based out of the New Orleans area here in Louisiana. I'm originally from New Orleans, but like I mentioned before, I've also been a pastor now for 12 years, serving at churches in New Orleans, as well as being a church planner that started a church in New York City back 2015 through 2019, and then just continue to be involved with local church work here back in my hometown now. So there's my email, my cell phone number. I want to be as accessible as I can be to you guys. We say all the time at GraceLed, the way that we operate as a business is that, and there's churches that want help doing the work of digital communications. And we want to be able to help. But we're not going to charge you for consulting. I'm not smart enough to think that you should pay me for the things that I know. Just keep booking times with me and calls with me, and we can talk about whatever you want. I want to be able to share with the body of Christ, and this is how we can leverage these tools for the mission, for the kingdom. And then if you need help with that, man, we are here to support you in whatever way possible. Uh, so, a few things that we're going to cover today around the idea of a church website. I believe, and I'm going to make the case that it is not something that is just meant to promote ministry. We say this about social media as well. It's a place where you could do ministry. And so, how is your website not just the thing that hopefully gets them to the place where then you can do ministry, but how can we use it for both evangelism and discipleship? How can it be an extension of the ministry that you're already doing, not just a picture and snapshot of the ministry that you want to do? We're also going to talk about that kind of from a system standpoint, even just the way you organize your pages. How are you keeping your audience in mind? Because often we kind of narrowly focus on who our website is for, who our digital footprint is for as a church, and we miss out on the opportunity of a lot of people that are trying to check out new churches. With that, we're going to talk about our visitor journey, our first time guest visitor journey, from when they get to the homepage to when they might actually attend a worship service at your church. What does that look like, and how does your website play a part? And part of doing that is that everything we do on our website can be inviting action, can be an invitation into relationship. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. And then, like I said before, some of the tools, some of the software, different things that we use whenever we're building church websites that you might find personally helpful if you're looking to upgrade your existing website. And then at the end, if there's any other questions or anything, I'm happy to stick around a few extra minutes to address any questions, any topics that you have around your website or digital communications for your church as a whole. So, if you have any questions, feel free to raise the little virtual hand or just unmute. You're welcome to just stop me at any point. You can also add your questions to the chat. But I'm happy for this to be as much of a dialogue as you would like for it to be. Otherwise, the pastor and me will come out and I'll talk for several minutes and then, try to force an awkward communication of whatever questions you guys might have and see if I can draw that out of you. But any questions before we get started? All right, cool. Well, before we talk about how to work on our church websites, maybe we should start with why they matter. Why does your church website matter? I've used this term twice now, your digital front door. And really, there's three opportunities with your church website. It forms a first impression, you get what you ask for, and it's an opportunity to minister before you meet. So, a first impression. We make these all the time. I've been told by many people that I come off intimidating as a first impression. And they have to see me be self-deprecating before they can realize that, no, I actually love you. Everybody has a different first impression, right? So does your church. 80% of people in the United States visit your church's website before they will ever attend a worship service in person. 90% of our country is online. And so you're looking at almost everyone that is on the internet. If they are going to attend your church, they are going to check you out online first. But you think, great, man, we've built page after page and all of this content, and it's just all there for them. I wrote my book and I have dispelled it into, 15 pages of content with 5,000 words a piece. Like they'll realize we are the perfect doctrinal church until you see that second bullet point. It takes 50 milliseconds for someone to form an impression of your church when they visit your website. Now, impressions, thankfully, and I can thank the Lord for this, otherwise I probably wouldn't be married. Impressions are something that you can get past. But impressions also can be a thing that's hard to overcome. Whenever the first thing that people see when they visit the homepage of your website is one, maybe something that doesn't work, or something that feels like it's 20 years old, or something that's communicating to an audience that's not them, or it's something that's confusing. There's any number of ways that we can leave a bad impression, but when people first visit your website, they are already beginning to form an impression of who you are as a church and if they could see themselves being a part. And you think, hey, you don't have a website yet? No impression is still an impression, especially when we are used to going online for nearly everything that we do. Even if we want to go eat at a restaurant, we're going to go online and see if other people have liked the restaurant. I go online to see what's on their menu first because I've gotten Mexican food at all kinds of places. I want to see if this Hispanic restaurant has sweet plantains. Otherwise, it's not worth my time. Like we go online for everything. And so even no impression is an impression of the kind of church that we are, whether that is valid or not. Now, secondly, you get what you ask for. And a lot of times we don't have people attending our church, or if you have a Bible study in your home, you don't have your neighbors attending your Bible study. Maybe because they don't want to go, maybe because there's a conflict, but maybe because we haven't invited them. And our church website can give a lot of information, but until it's built around invitation, you're not going to see people responding the way that they could. And then that finally that gives us to the last point that it's an opportunity to minister before you meet. That one of the goals of any church website that we have the responsibility of being able to put together is that, man, I want to have the truth of the gospel fully accessible on that website. That I want to have opportunities for people to reach out and to be able to speak to a pastor or a church leader right out the gate, even before they attend. You do not have to sign up for something for us to be able to serve you. And your website offers a reach that you physically don't have just being stuck in the time and place where you are right at this moment. Your website's always working for you. So there's an opportunity to minister people before they ever step foot through the doors of your church. Okay, now let's have a little bit of fun on why does your church website matter? Now, I only realized this after the fact that looking for some examples of mistakes or issues or problems with the church website, that all of the ones that I ended up looking up, well, with the exception of one, all of these somehow were in Texas. Maybe that's just because most churches are in Texas, but all of these examples are in Texas. Uh, and a lot at first glance, you see this church's website, and there's nothing that's, like strikingly negative about it. It looks like there's a normal worship service and a praise team that's there, and that's a looping video that a lot of churches use at the top of their homepage. The reason I want to call this page out is because of that drop-down menu you see that I've opened. If you look at that menu there is a lot of words. And maybe your screen is too small. I can read some of this for you. The membership care team. That makes sense enough. Like you want to care for your members. I want you to think about these as a potential first-time guest, though. I want you to think about these as somebody that hasn't gone to church before, though. And that whenever you see or going through the pages of the website, one of the first things that you might come across is that, oh, they care for their members. That could be a positive thing. That could also be like, wait, do you have to be a member for them to like care for you? Second one, Say Yes summer program. Is that for kids? I don't know. Like summer robotic program, uh, health and fitness ministry, food pantry, the collaborative fellowship, African renewal trip. Now, a lot of these things, and we do this as a church, especially whenever you might be serving a church that has a bigger staff, that every ministry wants to come up with its own names for everything. But we find ourselves over time trying to manage a bunch of different brands that make a lot of sense only to the people that are the most on the inside of the church. And when we use that language, rather than say like, uh, instead of the collaborative fellowship, we say something like, church network, like terms that are clear and descriptive. Instead, we use our branded names in the navigation of our website, and we confuse people into ever clicking because they don't know if that's for them or not. Now, I want to switch to some live pages for the rest. Can you guys see my screen? It has a browser open.
Yep.
Uh, yes? Cool. All right, so Mount Zion Church. Now we're not going to look to a lot of things with these pages. I want to move through a little bit quickly. But something that jumped out to me as soon as I saw this, and I saw this on a billboard before I saw this on a website, that their mission statement, even as a Christian and pastor for 12 years, I don't know what it means. Impacting lives around us like never before. Their logo, their full logo that was on the billboard said Mount Zion Church like never before. I don't know do they have a bad reputation and they're trying to improve it? See, the way that we use our language can create a lot of challenge for people that don't really know what we're talking about because they're not coming from the same place that we are. I mean, when you first see the photo on the left there, impacting lives, with a photo of an elderly man in black and white, uh, I'm assuming that he's dead or he's the founder. I don't know why he's there. See, the little things like that, the choices we make with our photos, even whether they're colored or not colored, the language that we use and where we pair our photos with text, all of these things can make a difference. This is a larger church in Texas. And whenever you first visit their homepage for the first time, before you can see anything else on the website, you're immediately asked to commit to something. And for a first-time guest that, hey, I don't know if I should go to church or not. Is this the right church for me? They're already asking you to sign up for their newsletter. That's okay though, because this newsletter is broken, so they can't really sign up anyway. But when you end up on the website, the logo, it's pretty. You can see the church building in the background. You have to scroll a bit though before you get to anything that appeals to somebody that's not already a part of the church. We want to make that easy for people that might have already overcome a lot of emotional or mental obstacles to just visit a church's website in the first place. Next, again, another example of church language. This is actually a really nicely done website, but language matters. And for somebody that doesn't know that a church might have a tagline or a name or something else, what does it mean to welcome home until everyone hears? If you read that as one line, as one phrase, that's the only time you're welcome. Some of these things we just don't think about it because we kind of live in our own little church bubble. A couple more examples. This website has a similar issue to one from the Luke. You got to scroll down a little bit before you get to something for being new. And when you click on the page saying that I'm new, uh, it brings up something we run ads called Plan a Visit ads. This brings up a Plan a Visit page. But if you're new, you really should like grab a cup of coffee, get relaxed because there is a lot of content to digest here, especially whenever you get to the pastor. That I don't know anybody that is going to read this much about this man before they attend a worship service. They just want to know, hey, is this a place that I can feel comfortable attending? But what I walk away from as a new person is like, oh, this guy's very important. So little changes from how much text you use to what you put text around. Two more examples. This one here, this is once again a homepage of a website. And the first thing that you hit on their homepage is a link to a form, a pop-up to a form, so that way you can update their database information. Now, if you're a first-time guest, that has nothing to do with you, uh, and it's blocking you from accessing anything else. Whenever you actually go into the website, uh, the way we format our text. You want to give bite-sized information. We're going to go over some of these in several different pieces throughout the rest of our time together, but this becomes hard to read and to actually keep someone's attention. Now, the last thing, this is a church that several of you might be familiar with. It's Andy Stanley's church, North Point Community Church in Georgia, in Alpharetta. Now, they have a awesome done website. And I'm sure that they spent a lot of money putting their website together. They actually have placed a lot of emphasis on their visitor journey and thinking through, hey, if you're new, how are you joining us online or in person? Okay, here's the things for your kids based on certain age. Here's all this information, but it's all very clear and they're not using any church language, so it's very easy to follow. Right? They're not trying to do too much. They got a lot of time. Their goal is to actually have you be able to take a next step. But one of the challenges I think that you can run into as a church, and you see this even in denominations in their theological understanding of scripture, that you can under-contextualize and you can over-contextualize. Because the one thing that's missing from the homepage of the North Point Community Church website is the church. It's any sense that it's Christian, it's any mention of Bible or Jesus or a worship service. Uh, Now, I know that they have a worship service, but they are down to very much like what it is that you get on a Sunday. Join us Sunday for helpful content for you and your family. See, they've swung far enough that whenever if somebody goes to that church and then let's say they hear a lot of talk about Jesus, they sing songs about Jesus. We want to be very clear and transparent on both the front end and the back end in terms of who we are and the kind of church that we want to be. So let's talk about that for us. First off, who is your church website for? Most churches either have a website or they want to have a website. If they don't have a website, why'd you make a website for your church? Who do you think it's for? This is if you have a thought, go ahead and you can unmute, you can raise your hand however you'd like. But yeah, why do we have church websites? Who is it for? Who does it exist for? Why do we make it?
I created one because I thought it'd be a place for being a new church plant. This is a place that yeah, for visitors, whoever dropped Jay in the chat, visitors, people who might want to come worship with us and see what we're about and consider us as an option.
Yep. So yeah, your visitors are and especially, Andrew, as a new church, like you're trying to get the word out, and you need a place where people can find out more too, right? Because you don't have an opportunity to talk to necessarily everybody. And man, that is a as a church planner, it's an exciting feeling and an encouraging feeling when somebody comes to your church service on a Saturday or a Sunday that you hadn't met before, especially early on when you like you had interactions with most of those people that are in that room before they came into that room. And you're like, man, how did you find us? That's incredible. Like it's a miracle. Your website is a place that can engage and connect with people that you don't know yet. I'd say that there's probably, and you could be more granular with this, but there's probably three primary audiences for a church. I'm sorry, I got a little bit GIF happy. So, you can play Spot That Movie with whichever films or TV shows that we're putting through the rest of the slides. But your three primary audiences are, like you just mentioned, potential first-time guests, people that haven't done anything connected with your church in any way before. And then really an underserved audience is people that have done one thing with you before, seeing a potential first time guest become a first time guest, seeing somebody that has been a guest actually want to maybe get more involved, want to come back, a potential second time guest, where they're now looking to get connected and not just check you guys out. And then finally, the people that are your core, your regular attenders or your members. Um, and so, if those are the three audiences that you are speaking to through your church website, you should probably think through each page of your website, how am I communicating to that person? Right? Whenever you plan a sermon, you're thinking of your context in mind, right? You do your exposition, but then as you transition to homiletics, you're thinking about, okay, what are some of the illustrations and examples? What's some of the direct application because of the people that I know, because of the place where I live? We do the same thing with our website. If we have in mind who it is that we're speaking to and what it is we're trying to accomplish, then we should be able to see those goals play out on every single page. And so, a few different ways that we can do that. First, let's talk about the navigation on our website. Here, this is for the Village Church, once again, the church in Texas. Uh, and at the top of their website, you can see they have a very simple navigation. Now, Village Church is a few thousand members. It's not a small church, right? And yet, whenever you first visit their homepage, you only see those five things at the top of your screen: about, ministries, serve, give, events. And yet, and if you've ever been a part of a large church or attended a large church, their organization is complex, right? They have a lot of things going on, and they have one of the benefits is they can offer a lot of different kind of services to people in different stages of life that a smaller church really just can't offer. And so, how do you communicate that in an easily digestible way? And they've done a great job here. Then, even though they have a bunch of different ministries, they've taken all these 30 plus ministries that they have, and first of all, they've dropped them into several categories and buckets for what stage of life that those ministries are reaching and engaging. And then they've made landing pages for those stages of life. But even if you're not sure, well, what is this about or what is that about? The way they built their website and their navigation, they explain what those things are whenever you click on a page. I mean, sometimes I don't go any further on a website because I don't know where clicking is going to take me. And here, if you're interested in care ministry, you see that they offer counseling support at the Village Church. Rather than have a care page and a recovery page and a counseling page. In their navigation, they're showing you, hey, this is one area of our church is that we serve in caring ministries. Here's some of the things that we do for student ministries, both middle school and high school. And we have a Spanish ministry. And so see, they've taken really dozens and dozens of ministries and they've made them easy to navigate and be digestible without just flooding you with information right out the gate. And so, from the language that you use, are your page titles clear to outsiders? Like I mentioned before, maybe consider not using if your youth ministry has a title to it, and it's I don't know what's a youth ministry name. We can go through like all the normal explosion or something with an X, or I think it's popular now to do youth ministries that like don't have the vowels in them, like it's just consonant letters, midweek or something like that. But let's say it's explosion. And under ministries, you have explosion ministry on your website. Now you might have a family that's new to the area and looking for a church, and saying that, hey, we serve people with explosion might not be a deal breaker for them, but they might not ever actually realize that that's a page that they can check out because you have something for their kids. Rather than just saying youth. And then on the page, you can, have an exploding graphic if you want, but just get them there by using clear explanations and titles. Are you overwhelming guests with your options? And related to that, because I know I've talked church planting a little bit here as well, are you overselling your ministry? A church that is under 5 years old probably doesn't have like this big faith and work ministry that has, all of these residency programs, and you can go through this like 12-month course, and we have like a faculty that's teaching it on staff. And yet, because I care about faith and work discipleship, that's going to be a page on my website whenever our church launches, right? Like I'm going to talk about, hey, we have a men's ministry and a women's ministry. Our men's ministry is me and the one other guy in our church. We go get coffee once a month, but we're going to have a whole page for it, right? Because we aspire to have more of a men's ministry. Don't oversell and then under deliver on who your church is. Actually, no, God has a certain people that he's calling to be a part of your local body. And the way that you can be a good steward of that is actually just being transparent with who you are. Now you want to present yourself in a way that also is compelling, but in a way that's clear, in a way that's honest. Uh, and then I put this really, I just needed to find a page to put on it in terms of a missional approach to your navigation. Please don't let give or give online or donate. Let that be the button that shines bigger than everything else on your navigation for your church's website. Because people that want to, like, there is no person that went to your website, saw that, and was like, oh, you're right. I think I want to give to this church now. You need to make it easy for people to find for your returning guests, for your members. Um, but you get what you ask for. And if you're going to put the priority on your church's navigation about giving or online donations, that also communicates to the people that haven't attended yet. Side note with that, because we've talked about insider language a little bit. And maybe you have some that comes to mind. The phrase that I grew up with was Christianese. And the play on words there is really because it's like Christian subculture can sometimes be a whole nother language by itself. That clip's from Rush Hour, by the way. Um, but be mindful of the language you use on your website. A great example for that, again, church planners, if you're building a website, a great way to get feedback from somebody that you're trying to share the gospel with anyway is to give the link to one of your neighbors and say, hey, we're building a website for our church. And really, I just don't know if it's communicating very clearly like who we are and the kind of church that we want to be. Would you mind taking a look at it? Just giving me any thoughts or questions that you have? Like you do that as a neighbor and as a friend, you're getting them to read information about Jesus, but them just doing you a favor as a neighbor. And so let's avoid insider language or explain needed language. And there's a difference there. So I got some examples here on the side. And there's different levels to these, right? Because being filled with the Spirit is a biblical expression. And yet, for the person that's not a Christian, they might very misunderstand what that means. They might misunderstand that denominationally. They might misunderstand that culturally, just what it means to be filled with the Spirit. And so, saying that, hey, come join us on Sundays and be filled with the Spirit. We every Sunday we practice the laying on of hands. Uh, that's a weird expression to hear for the first time to a church that you're planning on attending. All right, so there's a few here. Even talking about your small groups and your Bible study, your Sunday school, all of those things. I know we use branded language for them. Use the term that you have for them, but explain what they are. Because saying there's a life group just for you, we have life groups for people of all ages, doesn't say what they are. And so in that first introductory piece, try to be clear and not just communicate your labels. The last one under there is a great expression that's been used, man. As long as I've been in ministry, you don't go to church, you are the church. Uh, However, not a great way to invite people to your church uh, that see it and think, oh, okay, so I don't have to go. See, some of these things, as true as they are, now we still have to define other terms. I remember having a conversation with a pastor in New York when I first moved up there. Like, how do you talk about sin in a place like New York City? Do you just, I asked him his opinion. Do you just use another term? Do you talk about like brokenness? That seems to be a trendy word these days in churches. And he'd been doing ministry there for 40 years in Manhattan. And his thing was, if the Bible uses the term, we should use the term. But don't just assume that everybody else has the same definition for it that you do. And so we talk about sin. We talk about the Trinity. We talk about communion and baptism. We talk about the Holy Spirit, the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. But we also have to define these things where we use them, not just assuming that because we put it on a church website, that it's going to be church people that see it. Any questions? Any thoughts on any of that so far? Cool. Let's talk now a little more specifically about a church's homepage. Um, Yeah, what should be on a church's homepage? Because if you have a church website, more often than not, there are multiple pages and there's a lot of different things. What are some things that you'd say, hey, it's a priority that this is on the homepage for a church website? How to come? Yeah, how to attend the church. Okay, so your service time, your location. Uh, Yeah, like a great salesman that puts all the information together and makes the pitch, but doesn't actually tell anybody what to do with it. You actually have to make the invitation and then tell people where they can go. Um, and so what it looks like to attend and how to attend a worship service, whether that's in person or it might be online for some of the churches as well. What else stands out to you about what might need to be a priority to have on a church's homepage?
This is just something I just put up on our website this morning, actually, but and I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but I'm trying. You can tell me if it's bad. This little welcome video saying, "Hey, thanks for visiting our church and taking the time to get to know us a little better." And maybe just like a 30, 45-second walkthrough of, "Hey, if you want to know more about this, try clicking this button up here, try clicking this." It's a little walkthrough of how to navigate the website, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, so you're orienting people to it, right? That's you're onboarding people to your church website, but it's an introduction, and really that speaks exactly to what I had in mind for our next page here. Let's see here, we got one more, something about your beliefs, and that's fair. Like uh, if people are making an impression about your church very quickly whenever they visit the homepage of your website, then what you communicate at the top of the church should be of the church's website is what you're wanting people to walk away with. In terms of, hey, whatever else we are, this is what I want you to remember that what we strive to be, what we're passionate about, and where you might be able to get involved. Um, let's see here. I got one other comment when I was looking for new churches. My husband and I wouldn't visit anywhere if we couldn't find Jesus or God within the first couple of scrolls. Uh, and you know what? For a church, that's probably pretty important, right? You communicate what you value, and you're going to do the same thing with your website as you do with the way that you teach, as you do with every other part of your ministry. At the end of the day, though, the ideal homepage, I don't know that there is a perfect homepage for the website because the one that's ideal for your church is the one that's ideal for your context, right? And there's going to be different things that stand out or that are important depending on whether you live in the Bible Belt, whether you live in the Pacific Northwest, whether you are in the United States or you're in a different country, whether you're in a upper middle class community, whether you're in a lower middle class community, like all those things have an impact on not just the content that you place, but also the imagery that you use, the various elements where you're pointing people to with your website. All of those things matter. Now, some things that I would say to emphasize, though, whatever else that it is that you put on your website, is photos of your church family. And I use the word family because I want to distinguish between there's a difference between displaying your community or promoting your event. Because at the end of the day, what you're inviting people to is not only to attend something. You want them to use some Christianese. You want to do life together. You want to invite them into the community of the family of God. And that exists beyond just your worship service, even though you're inviting them to be a part of your worship service. And I think too many churches, we fall into this trap of, well, the thing that looks the best, the thing that has that people are most interested in, that they might choose our church or a different church because of, is the worship service. And so it's also the thing to take pictures of that's the least awkward, right? Because if a guy's preaching on stage, it's easy to take pictures of him and he's not going to mind. The band is worshiping, it's easy to take pictures of them. But if you have people that are giving each other a hug in front of the coffee station because they hadn't seen each other all week, and you come up with a phone or your camera and you take a picture of them from a couple feet away, that's a little different, right? That's that's a different experience, and that might be a little bit more awkward. However, um, there are studies within just secular business that there are brands that have had negative trust scores. And businesses they do these focus groups and everything to kind of see how people are receiving their brand, what it is that they can do to improve their brand for their business. Um, and studies that showed that businesses that had low trust scores that were viewed as with negative feedback, that the only change that they made was adding photos of people smiling to their website. And then the next time that they carried a focus group, their trust score improved. Now, do not hear me say that, hey, we can manipulate people too. No, really, this is an insight into us being created in the image of God, the image of a relational God that sent his son into the world to redeem a people for himself. And we are hardwired to have an emotional and intimate response towards seeing people's hearts move, their minds engaged, and people brought together in community. And that's something that affects us on a deeper level than simply like, ooh, they have colorful lights during their worship service. And so, yes, you need to show imagery of your worship service, but you shouldn't only show photos of that. Show photos of people that are gathering together, that are friends, that are meeting new people, both at your church campus and anything that you can show away from the church campus. If you're doing stuff out in the community, there should be photos of your church being a community together. And really, a good rule of thumb that I use for thinking through the homepage, how would you introduce your church to your neighbor? What are some of the things that you would communicate if you wanted to talk to your church about your neighbor? Or talk to your neighbor about your church. You're sharing little snippets, right? You can't share your whole book and your prospectus, right? But you can share a little bit about who we are. And then if you want to learn more, I got more about that. Here's what we do as a church. If you want to learn more, I got more about that. Here's when we do it, right? Times and locations. Here's how you can get connected. Your church tells a story. And part of inviting anyone into anything is being able to tell a story and then show where they fit into that story. So here's an example of an outline of a homepage. And I'm going to run through this really quickly. If you want more of like an in-depth guide on thinking through your first time visitor journey with your homepage, we actually just published a blog on that very subject this afternoon. So you can scan that QR code with your phone. That'll bring you to our website, to our newest blog that's exactly on this topic of some thoughts thinking through your church's homepage. So just some ideas thinking through a homepage. Very top of the page, right? You're using non-insider language with your tagline or whatever that statement is. You might have a looping video or a photo of your church community. You're trying to show people and you're trying to communicate the vision. Uh, Before people ever have to scroll, they should be invited to take an action. And so that's buttons to maybe it scrolls down further down your page to the locations and times for your service, or it might have a button that just says I'm new. That brings to a page that people don't have to do anything else, where the first thing they see is like, oh yeah, that's me. Right? You're nurturing them towards the information that they actually came looking for. The section underneath that, Might be, and again, another photo of the church community, might have a 2 to 3 sentence blurb on who we are. It's where you get to share a little bit about your passion and vision as a church, why you guys exist. And then there's a button underneath that that kind of has a learn more button leading to your about page with some of your vision and mission and who the leadership of the church is. Now, underneath that, again, you might have that's your photo of your worship service. You might have your times and locations there. Maybe for people that are visiting it on a mobile phone, they can click that, they can tap on that link and it opens it up in their maps for them. So that way they have an easy way to get there. Uh, and a button that leads to the I'm new page. Again, that's okay. That you can do that more than once. You want people to get that to that information. Underneath that, you might have a photo of people out in the community, maybe doing a mission project or something. A 2 to 3 sentence blurb on how to get involved. Right? This isn't a lot of text. It's just hitting some things and introducing some things, and then giving people opportunities to explore more. Underneath that, for all of your returning members and regular attenders, you might have some resource sections for some couple highlighted events that are coming up. The current sermon series you're on, people can click into that if they want to read more or listen to more. And then at the bottom, something that is like some kind of place where people can reach out immediately. And that for a church, that's often around the concept of prayer. We might do a lot of other things for you, but even if you don't come to our church, how can we pray for you? Uh, because at the end of the day, like, what are the main goals of your website, right? There's a lot of different things that you can do. You want to introduce, you want to equip, you want to engage. All those things feed into the ultimate goal of helping connect people to Jesus and his church. That's the church visitor journey, and your homepage is a great starting point for that. Uh, and if the goal is connection, then every bit of information on your homepage, whatever that looks like, and you don't have to follow this. This is just thinking, of kind of one example of an outline of how the page might be laid out. But every bit of information should lead to some kind of invitation. So, example, the homepage right out the gate offers people, if you're new, you can click to the I'm new page. Well, they get to the I'm new page. That shouldn't just be information. What happens when they get there? What do you want them to do when they get to the I'm new page? Maybe that's where you have a form where people can plan their visit and then receive more information about the church. See, it was information that led to invitation. The homepage you might highlight your kids ministry because it's families that make up a large part of the community in which you're living, and so you're wanting to reach out. And rather than have a ministry page that's just tucked away in your navigation, you're going to highlight your kids ministry right from your homepage. And the homepage leads to a button that goes to the kids ministry page. What do you want them to do when they get there? Not just read, not just collect information. You might show a couple of upcoming opportunities where you can connect with that ministry. Here's some events that's specific to this. Here's some opportunities to serve. And then here's a form on how you can get involved or get more info. See, information leading to invitation. Everything you communicate should have something that people can act on. Otherwise, just the journey stops short and people visit your website, but they're never encouraged to do anything with it. Some other pages to consider, because really the homepage, if you're going to focus somewhere, that's where I would focus first because that's where people are making their first impression. The three other types of pages that I want to hit right out the gate. I can hear him say, but wait, there's more in that infomercial right now as I'm looking at the OxyClean guy. Uh, First of all, an I'm new page, I mentioned that before. That's different from an about page. An about page is sharing really information about the uh, how somebody would fit into or how the church, who the church is. It's focused on the church. And I'm new page is focused on the person that's visiting. See, there's a difference there. Because in the about page, you're saying, hey, here's who we are, here's the things about us. I think some churches we can get this wrong because then we do an I'm new page and we make it all about communicating more about us so they can attend more easily. When really we should be relating to the people that you know in your ministry context, not just trying them to show them how they can relate to your church. So a difference in this. Um, you should think of your I'm new page almost like it's an apologetic. And so if you're in a very secular city and you're doing ministry in there, uh, then your I'm new page might actually include some information. It might have a video of how you talk about doubt is a very natural thing. And, skeptics are welcome in our church. We want to engage with people that have not just questions, but have doubts. See how that's not focusing on just the normal information about your church. It's focusing on the questions they might have. Because, right, that's the most powerful point of any sermon is when somebody's listening in the congregation and they have a question that comes up or a thought that comes up based off of what you're preaching. And then that's the very next thing you address, right? You're like, hey, no, some of you might be thinking this, or maybe I said this and that's making you wonder, well, then why this? And man, that shows that what we are offering as the body of Christ actually fills a need and meets a question that they have, rather than us trying to answer questions that they're not even asking. And so, an I'm new page, thinking about the person, not just about how the person relates to your church. Secondly, a what we believe page, and I believe this was mentioned in the chat a little bit more, or a little bit earlier. But with a what we believe page, I would just put out there the idea, maybe instead of just text and running through your statement of belief from your denomination, or if you're getting like, super ambitious, you write your own statement of belief. Uh, I think include all of those things if you want to include all of those things. But why not also use a video? Like, in an I'm new video or something on your homepage, you're trying to speak very broadly about what you're passionate about as a church. Um, But when you get to something like a What We Believe page, why is somebody visiting that in the first place? They have either a specific thing in mind that they're wondering, what does this church believe about this? Or they're wanting to make sure that the church is just not weird in general. Uh, but people are not going to read everything you put out there. They're going to scroll down to your specific thing. Now, people watch videos more than text, and so why not just a face to camera? Doesn't have to be produced, doesn't have to have B-roll or anything like that, but have a short video that just talks about, man, as a church, uh, our beliefs come from the Word of God. We believe it's the inspired, inerrant Word of God, and we preach verse by verse through the Bible. We It frames what we do in ministry, everything that we do with our kids' ministry, to our senior adult ministries. Like you're giving people a context for what they might read below that. And it gives you an opportunity for you to relate to them or them to relate to somebody talking about what you believe rather than them just hopefully they read it and you're using theological words and they might understand it or they might not. So just an idea. And finally, the ministry pages, again, you get the idea. Maybe there's videos on your ministry pages overviewing those, and those can be short by the different people that are leading those ministries, but also include an FAQ on your ministry pages. A lot of churches do that on an I'm new page. They'll ask questions like, is there a dress code? Where do I park? Is there a kids ministry or something for my kids? All those are good questions to have on an I'm new page. But if somebody wants to join the kids ministry or drop their kids off, man, there's a host of questions you could answer for them with that. Like, uh, you could share about your childcare workers being background checked. You could share about sanitation, the cleanliness of the space. There's a lot of different things that you could share for each ministry that you're trying to go ahead and resolve issues before they even arise. See, it's speaking to the people that don't know what they don't know yet by saying, hey, here in this little accordion, so it doesn't take up a bunch of the page, here's some questions that you might have. We want to be thoughtful enough to address them even before you get involved. Uh, okay, another question, and this is very intentionally, I have Frankenstein's monster here. What if your website grows? Because the reality is the internet is always changing. Even what is used to build the internet is always changing. And so an excellently designed and developed website is still going to have a shelf life. And a lot of churches, though, I think, as an industry, we're some of the last uh, people to, consider maybe we should update our website because I'm the pastor of such and such church. I don't really go on my website. And so it's fine, right? We spent a lot of money on that, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Why do we need to do anything new to our website? But once again, if we get out of the mindset of thinking about how we or people use the website and think of it as a tool to be able to engage new people right where they already are, we'll start asking some of these questions a little bit differently. But how can you make your website last longer? Because especially if you're a small church or a new church, uh, you're starting off maybe just with a single page. And then as your ministry grows, you want to also expand that web presence and be able to communicate more things and show that you have a new ministry or a new initiative or things like that. A couple of, depending on how you build the start of your website, you can scale it up as your ministry grows as well too. Three different ways that I think is helpful to think about here. First of all, make static content evergreen and dynamic content embeddable. What do I mean by that? There are certain aspects of your website that should not change, or they change very rarely. What you believe about the Godhead, hopefully that doesn't change. How is someone saved? It doesn't change. If you own a building, if you're lucky enough to own your church building, your service times and locations might not change except for on holidays. It's rare. Staff changes, the lead pastor leaving. Again, those are hopefully a little more rare changes. Your kids ministry, it serves kids. That part should not ever change about your kids ministry. So there's some things that are evergreen, right? They that content, this is who we are as a church, this is what we do, and that content largely remains the same. But your church is also a living, breathing organism, right? It's a body. And so there are things that are changing all the time. You guys have events, some churches every day of the week. And the times and locations of those events might change. Easter's every year, but what you guys are doing during an Easter service might also change from one year to another year. You might have a different initiative. Your sermons, they are different, hopefully, from week to week. And so you want to publish me. Yeah, Andrew's like, nah, I'll be honest, man, we're all set over here. And so you got all kinds of time then to to work on this other stuff. But your sermons, you're doing somewhat fresh content, and you want a place to be able to store those things. And so you can use a sermon player through some app or something like that. You can use a content calendar. You can use some of these other tools and then just embed those on your website rather than have to build your website around them. So that way, when you edit those things, your website's updated. You don't have to have 50 people going into your website every day and wanting to make a change on this event time, or because there's a typo in this word for this past sermon, uh, because they can just change those things somewhere else and it displays on your website. So your website stays more stable. It actually can grow with you a little bit better because you don't have to keep making changes and it turns into Frankenstein's monster over time because you've kept adding new things to it. Another way you can do that is to utilize some templates. A ministry serves a certain purpose. It serves a different purpose, your kids' ministry, your youth ministry, your men's ministry, but they're largely doing the same things. You're caring for people within a certain demographic or a certain specific grouping of people. You're wanting to be able to bring them together, to communicate truth, to be able to fellowship, to be able to work and serve together. There's times that they meet. There's ways that you can get involved. There's opportunities to serve. There might be a staff that's associated with them. There's an overview and vision for the ministry. Those things are going to be true for every single different kind of ministry that you have. And so you can create a ministry template page that has this many types of content blocks on it. And then if you start a new ministry for maybe you just have a kids ministry at first as a small church, and now you want to start a preschool's ministry, not just have one big kids ministry. Well, you already have the formula. Now you just need to write content for this section, this section, this section, this section. You duplicate the page, swap out the content and pictures, and you haven't broken the website. It still looks like you guys because you don't have some person off, rogue agent off to the side doing their own thing, and your website can scale with you as your ministry grows. Now, the final piece on all of these, I find it personally helpful, especially as uh, someone that works at an agency that works with a lot of churches that are helping update websites. Have a gatekeeper. Rather than giving open access to everybody that, has maybe made some blog in the past, and so they want to be able to edit the website and update things. You might save something while somebody else is trying to update something. Somebody breaks something, but because who knows who did it, because everyone has access to it, you can't really fix it. Have one person or a small team of people that these are the people that we send any request to update your website. You'll find that the website is going to be able to last much longer in the long run because of it. Okay. A couple of features that might be worth considering. And then after this, I want to be able to, I got a couple more slides and then we're going to open it up to any questions here, but I know we're running at the end of our time. Every page of your website should have some kind of call to action. And I think above the footer, the bottom of your website, this call to action can be pretty consistent. It might be prayer requests, it might be planning a visit, but every page should have some kind of invitation. Like I've said before, videos. Now, especially post-COVID, a lot of churches have some kind of live stream now for their worship service. Uh, if I were to start a new church, live stream is not something that I would be interested in doing. And part of that, part of the reason for that is because I can't um produce a nice enough live stream that actually is something that could communicate the quality of our worship gathering. And as a new church, you might only be five, six people, or even if you're a church of 300 people, um, what people are used to watching on a screen takes a lot of money to achieve. And you think, well, that's okay. It's content, and people might be utilizing the content. But studies show that the number one person that's using a live stream for a church website is your church. It's people that have taken vacation that week, that got sick, and they thought they're still going to be holy enough to tune into the worship service, and that can be useful to be able to still connect with those people in your church. But the majority of people that are watching are people that have already connected with you. And so when your live stream, if you were putting your live stream and promoting it on your website, and then when people click that are first time guests and are thinking, hey, like this is what a church service looks like, and then they don't get to experience what it's like to be in the room. And they don't have the production quality of something else they might see on a screen that helps them experience what it feels like to be there, where they can get lost in a moment. And so instead, it just looks like an iPhone from the back of the room with a wide angle shot that just feels drab, sad. And that's not what your worship service is like, even if you only have a couple of people. And so, if you're going to spend money on anything, as much as the equipment it costs to be able to do a nice live stream, I would suggest spending money on a video company, which is just something that we do. By the way, shameless plug, do a short 2, 3 minute first look video of your church that is being able to show both the worship service as well as being able to show information or show people that are gathering together, that are getting to know one another, that has some information from the pastor, from someone else on staff that's sharing maybe some members of the church and why they're thankful for their church family. And it has all this information, but it does it in a quick taste, not a very long video necessarily that someone can feel just the live stream might lose opportunities to actually connect with them down the road and for them to attend. You can do overview ministries of each page. You can also have a looping video player. If you go to the graceled.org website, and that's just graceled.org, we use something you'll see it at the bottom of the screen here called Voomly. And what my favorite feature about Voomly is that it has a looping thumbnail rather than like a photo as the thumbnail that you have to hit play on. Whenever you scroll down, it'll look like it's already playing a certain clip from the video. That motion on the screen is enough to get some more people to actually click and watch the video. So we use Webflow to build most of our church websites these days. You'll see some of the software down there. Display.church. It takes your church CMSs like Planning Center, PushPay, Breeze, and it takes the content from those and it displays it in like an actually decent looking calendar that can go on your website rather than forcing people off of your church website to go to CCB's website for a calendar or something like that. Text in Church, yeah, they do texting, but they also have a live chat widget that people can plan their visit without ever leaving a certain page. It's like almost a type form where you go one question after a time. Something I really like as a tool is called Video Ask. And Video Ask If you've ever done a question at a time survey, you can pair that with almost like an iPhone video vertical shot of somebody that's walking them through that process. And so you can do a plan a visit form that's paired with like short 10 to 20-second videos each time that's asking or sharing a little bit of information. And so you're sharing information, like you're putting a face to the process as well. And so that can be part of your plan a visit resource. On our blog, whenever we share the replay to this webinar, you can see the underline all under each of those things. I'll share my notes as well. All of those are clickable, and so they'll bring you to the websites for those if you want to learn more. We shared this last time though, but most of those features are actually we're building natively into our own platform for churches that can handle email and text, online giving, your church phone system, be able to create workflows that send out automated emails and texts and voicemails and every kind of thing you can think of when someone plans a visit or they respond to an ad that you can hold your sermon content on there. If you have Bible study curriculum, you can plan that as courses. Has a chat widget that can go on your website. There's a lot of different things that we're trying to bring into a single tool that we can be able to hand to churches rather than trying to string together different features from this and this and this and this. If any of this information is like, hey, man, I know we need a church website. I definitely want to use it to be able to be reaching out rather than just simply reaching in. I want to use it for ministry rather than just promoting ministry. But I also don't know where to get started with the things that you're sharing. We'd love to talk with you more about that. And so you can visit graceled.org. You'll see a button for it in the corner, just /schedule. A little bit of information. It'll bring up my calendar. You can book any time with me to be able to run through kind of analysis of where your church is at with a lot of your digital communications and how we can help you with some next steps. And I know we've gone a couple minutes over time. Thank you guys for bearing with me as we went through really a lot of stuff thinking through church websites. But I want to open it up to you guys for just a couple minutes here as well. If you have any questions about digital communications as a whole, about anything that I shared with church websites, or maybe something specific with your church website, I'm happy to talk through anything that you might have on mind.
Any chance you have a list of like all of the insider language we should avoid? Because I'm
Uh,
thinking through that on our website, like for example, on our homepage, it's the vision statement, serving St. Tammany Parish in word and sacrament. I'm like, yeah, most people who've never been to a church probably have no idea what a sacrament is. You know,
yep.
they may not. Or I'm thinking like in one of the videos we post, I'm like, oh, yeah, if you watch this, you'll be able to see how our liturgy works. I'm like, they may not have a clue what liturgy is. I'm just trying to think through that. So, uh, is there a is there like I know some churches have put stuff out there like, hey, avoid doing this, like a little page, like, hey, avoid this terminology or anything like that out there that you know of?
One, you can message our copywriter. Meredith was she's the one that wrote the blog on the homepage that I sent you guys to
Okay.
before, and she seems to have those things locked and loaded. So I don't know if it comes from past experience or what, but she's great at being able to call out insider jargon and some Christianese. And that's going to be our next blog, actually. It'll come out next week, is on that. Um, but that's going to be different for different places.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I'm in South Louisiana. And so a lot of the people that I'm trying to reach and serve grew up Catholic. And so some of the words that I use actually is familiar to them. Now they might have a different definition for them, but that means that I might just need to define them rather than replace them. I think just a more eyes always help with generating great feedback. And if you have, and I'd say also non-pastor eyes. Because you can write something you think like, man, this perfectly articulates the gospel. People are going to come to our church already saying, hey, I got saved reading your website. I don't know what to do now. But like, our ability to communicate is not that great. And the Holy Spirit, is the one that does the work anyway. And so if you have some people on your team that aren't pastors, or you have neighbors that are people of peace that, you think would be willing to do that, uh, throw some terms out there. Ask what they think of whenever they hear them. You can just do that when you're out and about. The name for our church name in New York. I worked at a Spanish tapas and wine bar for a year. And I had a note on my phone where if I thought of a name, I put it down. Didn't matter if it was Gotham Church, that was on the list. Like it doesn't matter how bad it was because that's maybe it'll jog something else to memory. And then as I started whittling those down, I just started asking people that I was waiting on what they thought of when they heard a certain word and what came to mind or a certain phrase. And we went with Restoration Church because the only thing it made people think of was uh, Restoration Hardware. And there was a big Restoration Hardware with like a rooftop patio and everything right in our neighborhood. I'm like, hey, if there was a church named Restoration, would you find that offensive? Is that confusing? Why do you think they would call themselves that? And I just asked. It was a great way to have something to talk to when I met people anyway. And you could do that with some of the terms if you have questions about on your website too. Good question. Any other questions? All right. Well, I have kept you guys now 8 minutes past. Thanks for sticking around. Um, like I said, you can find out more information on our blog about the homepage. We're going to be sharing the next few blogs. We're going to be sticking to talking about church websites, just kind of trying to build out some of this content from this webinar. And then also we'll have the replay of this webinar along with my slides that'll be on there soon as well, in case there's anything that you want to dive into a little bit deeper. You're welcome to reach out to me. I get all the emails and everything that comes through the website also. But thanks again for being on here. We'll be here next month and having our next webinar where we're going to pivot to talking about social media and how churches can also carry a missional approach toward social media rather than just event promotion, as important as that is. So thank you guys again. And